Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Drunk Critique.
Cheers.
Cheers. We're celebrating. I've got my good friend Steve Skurich, good friend and fellow professional photographer here with me in my house. Typically, you are far away unless we're off traveling somewhere teaching a workshop together.
Yeah. I'm so last couple of years, Toby and I have been instructors with the McKay Photography Academy out of the Sacramento area in California. However, we don't live there. You're in Seattle. We're in Seattle right now. I live in East Tennessee in Knoxville. And we just got done with the tour in the Olympic National Park and Mount Rainier. And we're just having a little celebration. We got this idea of, hey, let's do some drunken. We say drunken. Now we're
a little tipsy. We even took a little break for food. So, somewhere on that scale. I'm on the pure honesty scale, I'll tell you that.
Well, we're kind of in this place of celebrating the tour being done. We're usually pretty exhausted after these trips, but one of the greatest things that we like doing is critiquing people's photographs.
That's right.
Whether it's give you tips on what to do or offering you tips on Lightroom and Photoshop on how to better your images. That's what we do, and we have a company now called the Photo Enthusiast Network that helps you to do that online. And that's been a nice growing community.
And we're doing the Price is Right style because we don't see Steve so often in the same place, and we have the kind of good rapport going right now. We have recorded several of these in a row. We're on to our third, and so that may affect how the style of critique that we give. It might be a little bit harsher than we did. I mean, we came up with this idea because there's that idea of is when a person a little drunk or a little tipsy or a little inebriated, for whatever word you want to use, is that their more true self? And we wanted to curious, what do we say to you all when you give us pictures? Now, within the Photo Enthusiast Network that Steve just mentioned, all of that content is created sober. And there is a fantastic amount of content and a fantastic variety of ways for you to get critiques on your pictures. But we're just going to dive in and let you digest this and hope that if you submit an image, you're not offended. And if you're watching it, well, I think we got some good feedback for you and a little bit of educational. Somebody started saying that word once long ago. I don't know why it's funny, but
now if you're watching this and it was a bit of a clickbait advertisement on what we're doing here, and you're more interested in what we have to drink in front of us than you are in what we have to say about these photographs, we can go ahead and post those recipes down below in the comments.
Your recipe's pretty simple right now.
Mine's changed, actually. I had a Manhattan earlier. I'm a whiskey guy, so I'm drinking Basil Hayden bourbon. I am not sponsored by Basil Hayden, but I happen to like it.
Wouldn't that be cool if we could get sponsored by Basil Hayden?
Maybe I'll have to swing out to Kentucky and talk to those guys. But had a great Manhattan earlier. I've gone just to some Basil Hayden neat here. And what in the wide world of sports are you drinking?
French 75, I think. Champagne, gin, and some other things I can't remember right now. I'm okay with who I am. And who I am is a person that occasionally gravitates towards more feminine drinks. So, and I don't necessarily mean to do that, but I also will see on the menu, be like, oh, those three things sound I like citrus, a little citrusy, a little fruity, a little tangy, and I'll order them. And then they come with like a pink umbrella and a couple frilly bits of decoration, and I'm like, oh man, looking around, all right, whatever. I ordered it, I'll drink it.
I think you like the drinks that make you feel like you're truly on vacation. And I think the pink umbrellas and the fruitiness that gets put in those drinks you're kind of into.
This is a bit of a dessert drink, I think.
East Tennessee guy, man, you're not going to see me drinking that stuff.
I know. I'd probably be shot if I walked into Tennessee carrying that with me across the border. Pink. Yeah, I know, right. Okay. So how we do this is we've pulled your images into Lightroom. We're going to hit 5 of them this episode. If you don't see your images, well, go back and watch earlier episodes or stay tuned for future episodes. We will try to get through all of them, but there were some rules, and honestly, we can't get to every single image submitted. So we're going to jump right in with Darko. And hey, Darko, you got a cool name. Darko
Markovic. Yep. Yeah, and I don't know. This could be a distant cousin of mine. I could be way off. My ancestors are from Croatia. My last name is Skuric, which originally was spelled Skuric, but I don't know if he's a fellow Croatian.
Nobody cares, Steve.
But regardless, he's got a totally cool name. So Darko, right on.
Man. I think we've already in the intro went longer than we wanted for the whole episode.
Yeah, and
I'm just kidding. Steve's
welcome
a good
to
friend of
Buzz
mine.
Critiques
That's
here.
right.
So Darko, you got a cool name regardless of where you're from. So anyway, as we get going, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
This image is really cool. And on a previous video that we did, we talked about salt on food, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is salt can help bring out a dish, but too much of it can kind of spoil a dish. So
Give you heart disease, too.
yeah. So I say when it comes to vibrance and saturation when you're editing your photos, just be really careful. A little bit of salt goes a long way. I think this is a little bit too salty, but I think it's a great picture. I think if you tone it down just slightly, it really doesn't need much toning down. It would make it just a little bit more realistic, a little bit stronger, and even a little bit grittier. You can see some of the boats are kind of worn out. The other thing that's cool about this picture is, although there's 4 of them, there's almost this feeling of an odd number. And I don't know why this is, but for some reason visually, we are more drawn to odd numbers in photos. 3, 5, 7, 9, whatever. But when you have even numbers, your mind starts to just kind of put things into it starts to organize
Compartmentalize?
things.
Yeah.
And when it comes to art and visual art with photography and that type of thing, just it's much more pleasing with 3. In this case, there are 4.
Yeah. So would you crop out one?
I don't know that I would, because you have 3 elements of things that don't exist as 4s in this picture. And what I mean by that is you can see the very tip of the bow of each boat. There's 3 of them. There's not a 4th. You can see the back end of the boat. There's 3 of them. There's not a 4th.
Okay.
There's enough of this boat that you know where the story continues on the left. There's enough of this boat that you know where the story goes on the right. So you're kind of left with the fact that the boats continue. This is one of the few examples that I've seen 4 boats or 4 of anything in a picture, and I'm actually pretty happy with that. I don't know that I would take one out. What about you?
I'd like to try for a minute. I'm going to hit the R key to bring the crop, and I'm just going to come in a little bit on this boat on the left. So we got 3, and you know what? I don't like it. I don't like it because it feels a little too, we would really have to come down, because I think this works as a longer, skinnier image. And having that
maybe
4th
lose some of
boat,
the shoreline, huh?
yeah, we don't need much of that to say, hey, they're on a beach. So coming in and getting a little bit more kind of a panorama, 16 by 9 or so. And then, of course, little things, we get rid of a little extra rock. We don't need that down there. It's just, we don't want to duplicate another rock. Oh my gosh, here we go. And I think that's really nice. I think your tip of toning down the colors a little bit, the texture of some of these boats really stands on its own. It doesn't need the colors to pop as much. Love the hint of the clouds back there. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And I just, I think I'm a genius when I'm a little tipsy, so I want to throw out the Fibonacci sequence. And that is that numerical sequence found in nature, pine cones, the center of sunflowers, that goes kind of like prime numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So I wonder if that's kind of similar to what our eyes do here. And I see what you mean. I also want to sing that Sesame Street. One of these is not like the other.
One of these kids is doing his own thing.
Yeah, that boat off on the left. But Darko, I really like the shot, and I want to point out that I really like. Some people might be like, "Oh God, these boats are cut off on the left and the right. That really bothers me." No, it leaves my brain thinking that you found a beach where these boats are lined up for infinity, left and right, and by having a pattern that repeats with no end in sight, it lets our brain continue this kind of pattern beyond.
Yeah.
And I think that was a smart choice and a nice one.
Yeah. And last thing I did here is I just brought the crop up a little bit. I wanted to get these boats down in the lower third. It's just kind of it's an interesting sky,
Yeah.
and so there's a nice contrast here. And I did take that saturation down, and I did the before and after. You can see this is how it came in, and this is where we've toned it down. It just looks a little bit more realistic, and you notice some of the grittiness in the grain of the wood. So,
Next. All
moving on.
right, we're moving on. Dirk Eisenblatter. Do you think he's an Icelandic fellow?
Dirk is it Eisenblatter or Eisenblatter?
I don't know.
I think with the double.
No.
Double
Let's
dot there,
now
okay.
let's try to pronounce this waterfall. We've been to several times on McKay Photography Academy trips. We'll be back in.
Celienfoss, is that how you say it?
Yeah, yeah. It's got a lot of S's and J's and F's in it.
And it always ends in a foss.
Yes.
So this is an amazing location. If you haven't been to Iceland, I know it's kind of a bucket list place to go for many photographers, and by all means, just it keeps getting more and
Did
more
you say
expensive.
bucket lice?
Bucket lice sort of place. And this is a really iconic spot. You can walk all the way around behind this waterfall. The fact that he's got this picture without anybody in it.
Yeah.
It was either taken at the right time or he's photoshopped those people out.
Yeah. How many busloads of people did you Photoshop out of this image?
Yeah, there's a lot here. Now, Dirk, what I will tell you with this picture, I think you did a really nice job with it. A couple of suggestions. I kind of want to see it pop just a little bit more. So I might increase some contrast just a bit, and maybe tone those highlights down just a little bit.
Yeah, you got that bright area that kind of draws my eye in.
If I reset it, you can see where this is blown out, right?
Yeah.
What I've done is I've just turned on these highlight and losing detail in the shadows indicators here by hitting the J key. And this is blown out. We're losing detail in the shadows here. So I think if we make some adjustments on the whites and blacks, we can get rid of that.
Yep. Now, it is nice to have it to be brighter back there, but we want a little more detail. The reason I like it brighter is it does kind of help separate the waterfall from the background. I also want to point out, Dirk, that I really like your shutter speed choice here. Bang on job, brother. 1/320th of a second kind of has frozen the motion of this falls, and these longer falls, especially this one where it's out away from everything, you get these sheets of water, and you've just captured that. In an earlier episode, we saw a waterfall that had been captured at a slower shutter speed. It looked very nice as well, but for a long time I felt like every waterfall needed to be like at a second or 2 seconds to get that flowy, low, lovely motion, and you don't. This is good. Also, pro tip, not related to this waterfall, but next to it, about a quarter mile to the right, is a smaller waterfall that is really cool because it's kind of inside a cave. You walk in through this stream and it's coming down. So anybody going to Iceland, as Steve said, it's a bucket lice item. You go over there, and it's a cool photo, but it's more just kind of a cool experience to walk in and experience.
Yeah, and the last thing that I'll add here, Dirk, is you put a very, very slight virtual matte around here with this white border, and that's great. The problem with a white border is on an image like this is it constantly draws your eye kind of out of the image. I may suggest just more of a black border to keep this popped. You want to keep your viewer inside the image. It doesn't look bad because it's nice and thin, but if you were to do a thicker virtual matte, I would recommend probably something black that's going to keep your viewer inside the image. Yep. But again, that's minor.
Yep.
So.
And if you got questions about virtual matte, we have answers at Photo Enthusiast Network exactly how to build it, why you might want to, and you can check that out.
Yep.
Dylan, you know what? We've got some not only strong images in this group of critique, but we've got some strong names from Darko to Dirk to Dylan. I think I might have put these in alphabetical order by name. That might have happened.
Well, names aside,
yeah.
What I do want to point out right off the bat, we've got the camera detail here. Dylan has used his ISO 200, 85 millimeters. F-stop is 3.5 at 1/640th of a second. And you can see just how sharp this image is. First of all, that's a great portrait lens, 85 millimeters, f3.5 was a great setting here. Fast shutter speed, nothing's gonna be blurred. And you can tell, I mean, there's all this drop off, right, in the depth of field. There's this kind of bokeh in the background, which still, that this is a bridge back here. But you got the snowflakes here. They're clear around her face, so you can see the snow falling around her face, and it's just so crystal clear. I think you really, really nailed it on the exposure and your camera settings. So kudos to you on that.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot I'd say about this. I kind of find myself wanting to see the rule of thirds come into play a little bit more on this. I see what he's doing with it centered, but Toby, why don't you kind of talk about the bridge here?
Well, I would just want to, the f3.5, you know, this is an 85 millimeter lens. We could go look in the library module and find out exactly which one, whether it shoots at f1.8 or f1.4 or f1.2. But it doesn't matter. You didn't shoot at that. You chose an aperture that gave you a good depth of field from model's nose, from subject's nose to back of the hat. It's all in focus. And then the focus fall off is just really nice. So that I really want to echo Steve in saying, 2 thumbs up. I wanted one more thumb, but I only got 2.
4.
Oh man. I'll do something about that in a future episode. But the one thing is her position. She's intersecting that kind of main pylon of the bridge, and this is pretty minor because that bridge is soft. But you could use that as a framing element. She could be a little bit to the right. That would nail Steve's desire for a little bit stronger rule of thirds. She would also be hiding that pole that has a sticker on it and is close in focus as well because it's part of that depth of field area. And she'd be framed by that opening under the bridge. So those things, a shift to the right, I think would make this a little bit stronger image. But Dylan, you are 90% of the way there. And nice job.
Yeah, now would you, Toby, I was kind of just playing around with some different crops here, but
Yeah.
now that I'm looking at it some more, I may consider coming up just slightly because you've got different material down here, and now you're really just kind of focused in on the black jacket and what's going on in this composition here. Coming in just a little bit tighter, and with a picture like this that's so sharp, you can really kind of crop in pretty tight, fill up the frame a little bit more, but still get the sense that, okay, there's a bridge back there. And
yeah, yep, I think so. I would be careful. If I'm cropping in this much, I'd do it just a tiny bit more to get that tiny corner of her jacket off now as well.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. I'd be picky enough to go ahead and do that as well.
Gotcha.
But again, we're being pretty picky here because we've had a few drinks or not. So we're gonna move on.
All right.
Hertzel Armagol.
Oh boy, spiders.
You like them?
No. I can handle them with a couple Manhattans and a neat
And
whiskey.
a baseball bat and a flamethrower.
Yeah, which is kind of odd since I'm from East Tennessee.
Tell us
but-
how you handle spiders in Tennessee.
Not a big-
Shotgun.
Yeah, that's how we do it. No, so here's the thing. I'm not a big spider fan, not a big insect fan. However, I have a deep appreciation for macro photography and what people are able to capture with insects and that type of thing. So right off the bat, and Toby, I'm sure that you're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, is there's some elements going on here, Hertzel, that need to be removed from this picture for it to have more impact. It's a great photograph. There's actually a lot that you can do with this. Some of it, in my opinion, would require some Photoshop work, and it wouldn't take much. Photoshop would be great at removing it, but very sloppily and quickly in Lightroom, since we're kind of constrained by time here.
And we're a little sloppily.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to come in, and what I'm doing is I'm just isolating the spider and its prey, and let's see, maybe come in. Okay, and now I'll use spot healing, but this is where I would really come in with Photoshop.
Yeah.
Because Photoshop isn't just picking from another section, it's actually manipulating the pixels. It does a much better job at cleaning this kind of
That
stuff up.
content aware fill, 80% of the time blows my mind. 20% of the time I'm like, oh man. But yeah, you've really done a nice job. We talk a lot about telling stories with our photos. And you've told a nice story here. Predator, prey, you've captured both of them together. Hertzel, you submitted more than one picture of this too. And in the second one, the prey was really cropped. We're not even going to bother showing that because it was not a good shot. With the prey being kind of half cropped, it was distracting. What is that? I can't really tell. But with the full shot that you submitted, we have both of predator and prey, as I just said. And I think you've done a nice job here. You could have possibly chosen a little bit of a wider aperture. You got f1.7, maybe f2, f2.2. Is that a real aperture? I can't tell right now after a few drinks. But a little bit more depth of field. The prey is pretty in focus. Yeah, you know, we got the forearms of the spider, the little fuzzy forearms. This is when you get into macro work, your depth of field becomes really, I mean, literally as thin as a hair at times. And so you might want to think about that for future storytelling. But overall, I think you got a nice, cool, green, spidery image here.
Now, yeah, and I punch it up just a little bit. You can kind of see the difference here.
I mean, do you all see just removing this little bit of distracting elements? Now, some of you might be a purist out there. We've run across your kind from time to time. We've got no arguments against you. If that's your thing, this is exactly how it was, this is exactly how you want to capture it, fine. But we think it makes a stronger image if you remove anything that distracts the viewer from the true story. So that's it. All right. Jean. What if it's John?
It could be.
Jean Lambert.
I'm going to go with Jean, but my apologies if it is in fact Jean.
Yep. All right. We're not sure where this is, but we're going to guess some South Pacific Asia type, you know, I don't know, I said South Pacific first. Asian place. Because the cities are often futuristic, and this looks a bit futuristic.
Yeah, so first of all, it's a really cool picture, and there's some really great elements. The problem that I'm having is it's very right side lopsided. All the weight of the photograph, all the light of the photograph, all the activity of the photograph is taking place over here on the right hand side. And because it's all weighted over on this side, things like this vertical line here of light with the taillights of the car and the street light, and this street running here, this perpendicular kind of intersection, it's ending a bit abruptly right at the edge of the frame, right? And it feels that way because we have all this open space over here. So what I would recommend, even though I hate to do it because the sky is beautiful and these elements are really pretty, and having this boat right here where you can see the kind of the trail of its path and stuff is nice. I think if you really crop it over, and you may even have to go into Photoshop and kind of remove this. I hate to do that. Maybe make it a little bit wider and you just take this out. But what this has done now is this doesn't feel quite so tight over here. It's still a little tight on the edge of the frame, but it's not as much as it was to begin with. So I think you're definitely on the right path with this one. It just feels very tight over on the right hand side.
Yeah. You know, sometimes we can balance that by having this kind of negative open space, but again, it just feels a little cut off, as you're saying, over there on the right. So yeah. And coming in a little bit gives it. You know, I think this is a drone shot, which, you know, it's cool. It's cool to have a drone shot in our review. They're capable of so much these days, and I just really like the colors and the light trails we're getting in there. So nicely done, Jean Lambert. Steve, if you had to pick a favorite out of these 5 that we've just critiqued, which one would be yours?
So I'm really tempted to go with Darko's boats here, especially after we've kind of toned this down just a little bit. It's just such a cool scene. But I think my favorite right out of the box with minimal adjustments would be the portrait by Dylan here.
Yeah.
I mean, this shot is so sharp. And, you know, having the color tones just on the skin and the model here, and this kind of black and white background, it's almost like a selective color in here. I just think it looks really great, and it's super clean.
Yeah, it's a lovely shot. I mean, we had some really strong images in this group. I am going to go with the boats, though, not just because Darko's name is Darko, but I just really like the tone of this image and kind of the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid, we said in an earlier episode, and Darko did that right here.
Yep.
Nice. Hey, let's cheers to the end of another Drunken Critique. We're still on our feet, or on our butts, more truthfully. Hey, if you're going to be drinking, do it while you're critiquing photos.
There you go.
We'll be back with more of these as soon as we can get together with some free time to share with you all. And in the meantime, if you don't want to wait for the next drunken critique, you can join the Photo Enthusiast Network, where there's tons of sober and fantastic content created for you all. Let us know in the comments which one of these 5 you think is the strongest and why. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. And tell me what I should drink in the next episode.
Definitely not that.
It might be a while before I record it again, but I'll read it and take it in an advisement. Say something.
You stay classy, San Diego.
Oh, do we have to give them money when we say that?
I don't know. We might have to. I know some royalties paid out to the producers of Anchorman.
I don't know how YouTube works. I haven't figured it out yet.
No.
All right, everybody. We'll see you again really soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.
All right. I think we're done for tonight.
Yeah.
My face is
run
numb.
out of steam.
Woo.
Oh,
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Those were good. I think they were good.
We'll see. I think my highlight was Mishmash, though. Felt like I was operating at my best.
Mishmash was good. And it was still recording.